Hello, everyone, and good evening, and welcome to the first episode of my new series, The Writer's Hub. I'm your host, Gabriel Garcia, otherwise known as the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill. And joining us for the very first episode of this new series is a returning guest accompanied by her narrator. Now, the sorry. So, my guest today, Jess, obtained a BFA in theater from Shenandoah Conservatory back in 2009. Spending over 3 years living in Northern Ireland was a great crack and only bolstered her love for accents and dialects. She loves stories about strong women, sweeping history or mythology, and those featuring awkward young people with gumption. She brings a grounded yet playful and connected presence to every piece. When not recording, you will find her in mudcake boots, covered in flour, chasing her children, or dancing poorly but happily. And also returning to the show is Kate Mathos, who you may remember making her official debut in her author interview. And as a little refresher for the newcomers to this series, she began creating characters and writing down stories in her childhood. That imagination led to her authoring a series of middle grade fantasy novels, beginning with Georgie Karas and the Niddle of Nern. She's a native of the Chicago suburbs and therefore quietly holds strong opinions about super important topics, like where's the best place to get pizza, if it's the Cubs or the Sox, who are better, and what to call the tallest building in the city. Hint, not Willis, as she says. And when she's not writing fantasy novels or hanging out with her big, loud Greek American family, she can be found reading, baking, or doom scrolling social media like it's her job. So without further ado, let's give a huge round of applause to our guests today, Jess Maron and Kate Mathos. Kate, Jess, welcome to the show.
Thank
you.
Awesome. I am so excited to have you both here. And I'm so excited to talk about this for the very first episode of the Writer's Hub. And that is, of course, the creation of an audiobook and, what really goes into it. So I think as a little starting off for this discussion is, how did you guys meet and just create this amazing collaboration?
Oh my God. TikTok.
TikTok.
We met on TikTok. I put out a video asking like, hey, we're gonna post an audition. We're gonna make an audiobook of Georgie Karas and the Niddle of Nern. It's been selling well enough to do it, and so we're gonna do it. And some people tagged Jess in the comments of that video. And it all kind of happened from there. We connected and that was it. We never even posted the audition. Like that just was it.
Really?
Yeah. I sent Kate a message and I didn't expect to hear back or anything. You just never know. And we connected on a lot of things right away.
Right away.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's great. That is really, really incredible. And this is really, really a very special topic for me because I've been interviewing narrators for a while now, and just hearing the stories of like what really goes into narration and the creation of an audiobook. I don't think a lot of people know. And I think also like fellow authors know, like it's a lot of work and it's a lot of grit. So I just think it's like start also with this discussion is, breaking like some like the myths about the creation of an audiobook. Like it's not just reading the book. No, as I've learned from a lot of my friends, Daphne, Heather, Brittany, and a lot of other narrators, it's sometimes months of recording, and it's just in your recording booth and making sure that the audio is correct. So when you guys like began working on this, did you guys have like a timeline in the beginning? And what was it kind of like for you, Kate, as the author, to like hear like little snippets of the dialogue that you wrote?
I cried. I cried. She sent me, so when we were in the initial stages of talking, she sent me like, I think it was a 7-minute clip of my favorite scene, which we can talk about a little later, but I love that scene of the book. It's the introduction of one of the characters, Ned, the Niddle,
Right.
through a letter, and she nailed that voice so perfectly without me even saying that that's the accent I wanted or that's how I wanted him to sound. I just kind of sent her some notes like, hey, he's kind of formal, blah, 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 blah. And she nailed it so perfect. I was crying. I was crying listening to it. And I had to take a beat because I thought, oh, I'm being too emotional about this. This is my book. It's my baby. I love it. I'm going to have Amber listen to it. I'm going to have my bestie who's an actor listen to it and just make sure I'm not being crazy. Both were like, you'd be crazy not to hire her. Like, what are you doing? Just email her back right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
That's incredible. That is incredible. And Jess, for you, I'm actually very curious. So up until that point, what was sort of like your background in narration? Do you have any like specific genres that you like really, really enjoy narrating for?
I do a lot of fantasy. I really love character development. I love accents and dialects and playing. So that's definitely a genre I've done a lot of, particularly cozy fantasy. But lately I've been branching out into a bit of thriller and horror, which has been surprising but fun. But definitely, I mean, I grew up reading fantasy and sci-fi, and that's probably just my favorite place to land. So Kate's book, I told her when I messaged her before I'd even read it, I said, it just makes me think of Meg from A Wrinkle in Time, because that was such a pivotal book for me growing up. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And it's very clearly seen that you guys, have a great partnership, great collaborative nature, and a great friendship all around. And what I've learned on my other shows when working on an audiobook, again, a lot of people don't really take into consideration a lot of the grind and all the hard work. And I'm also just very curious for you, Jess, when you were narrating the story, were there any points where you and Jess talked about, maybe certain scenes had to be read differently? And the reason I bring that up is that, naturally, as you're reading the voice or reading the dialogue or reading like a passage, sometimes you just say something that's a little bit different, but it just flows naturally. So did that come about in any discussions, or were you able to just read the book as it was written by Kate?
There was definitely a couple moments. I mean, as I prep a book, I usually will have a concept of a character's voice persona in my mind. And then sometimes when I start narrating it, I'll start narrating it. And then like a beat or two later, I'll think, no, that actually doesn't fit that person. And that happened I actually narrated this book live on TikTok.
Oh, wow.
So Kate was there for majority of the time.
Yeah.
And since she was there, it's like, this particular character, I don't feel like that's right. I'm going to play a little bit. And since you're here, tell me what you think. And so we were both like, oh, that's the one. And I was like, yes, I feel that way. So I think it can be a very organic process. There are definitely times where I can step into a book and it will come pretty easily, but I think most of the time you have to let it breathe, and give yourself permission to make changes. It's not just about what I think is best, it's for the listener, it's for the author. It's not just about me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's also like another thing I've learned from talking with narrators who've worked with authors also is there that, that hesitancy. And the reason I bring up hesitancy is, as readers, when we read books, we often imagine how the character sounds in our heads. And then when we make the decision to work with a narrator, a voice artist, to bring the characters to life, again, a lot of what's the word, auditions, a lot of, back and forth snippets. There can be that, hesitancy. It's like, are people actually going to, believe that this is actually that character, that it's very authentic? So for you, Kate, as the author, as you mentioned earlier, like, you automatically knew Jess was the one. But I'm very curious, did that hesitancy ever come up of like, oh wow, like, this is actually happening, this is actually going to be, a thing?
No.
Okay.
Listen, no. The only thing I wasn't hesitant, I would say I was a little bit nervous, even though I knew she could do it, was there's Greek
Mm.
in the book.
Mm.
And there's characters whose native language is Greek. So
Oh.
I did my own little terrible recording for her.
It wasn't terrible. It was so helpful.
To say the words in Greek, so that she knew. And then, but of course, I didn't do a Greek accent because my Greek accent isn't great. I'm American. My first language is
Right.
English. So I was a little nervous about that, but I shouldn't have been. She nailed it because, of course, she did. She was perfect. It was great.
Right.
Well, I was so thankful for that recording. That's a lifesaver for me. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think it also touches on a big discussion is on both parties is, for an author's side, really looking into the narrator, saying like, is this person the right fit? And also from the narrator's point of view, is this the right book for me? And this ultimately comes to what I like to call the discussion of sometimes saying no. And I've had a lot of narrators and authors talk about that. That is probably the most gut-wrenching feeling on both parties, because you want to work with them, but you also have to realize, is this the right person? So can you guys add your own insight into, this discussion?
Sure. From the author side, and Jess, I'm sure you have a point of view on this as well. From my side, I'm really particular about who I want collaborating with my work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was really particular about the publishing house that I went with. Like, I picked River City Siren Press for a reason. Amber and I had a connection. She understood my book. Her values and my values line up. I went with her. Same thing for Jess. It was super important to me that whoever does the narration for this book, even more important, this is going to sound crazy, but at the beginning, it was even more important than the accent work itself, is that the person like understood the soul of it, right? Virgie, and what, like, who is she as a character and what does she want? And innately just understood that.
Right.
And knew, because she was talented, that the accents would follow. I wasn't as concerned about that. But that's how I approached the process. Just, I know about.
Yeah, I think definitely it's important that I connect with the author. I do a lot of indie work, and that's what started my career, and I'm very passionate about working with indie authors. And I think the connection is number one, feeling like there's somebody I could work with well. And oftentimes it's going to be a series, so long term, 2 to 3 years. Of course, I've got to love the story. I don't always get to pick and choose the type of work that I do, depending on if it's a publisher or an indie author. But I try to definitely align myself with projects that excite me or thrill me or, move me. And Kate's book, I teared up several times during the live. I just really, really love it. I think it's magical. So
Absolutely. That is amazing to hear, Jess. And this one, I'm actually very eager to hear your thoughts on for this part, Jess, which is talking with narrators. You want to have that genuine, reaction for some characters. But I'm very curious, when you were reading Kate's book, did you read it, all of it, before working on the story? Or were there ever parts that you skipped because you knew that you wanted the reaction to be genuine? And I would just like to hear, your guys' thoughts on this, because authenticity is, very, very important, because you want the characters to be believable, to make sense in that world. And because this is a middle grade story, you do have to take into account the audience and the listeners who are listening to that. I know this is a very loaded question, and I apologize
No,
for
I'm
that.
following. I'm following. One of my professors in college for theater for youth, I'll always remember, he said that children are going to be the most honest audience you will ever have.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for me personally, I have to read the whole book. I need to know and have those layers ready. And I think in the moment in the performance, if I'm narrating and I feel that twinge of like I'm thinking about something else for some reason as I'm narrating, or that just it didn't sit right, it didn't feel authentic, I know. So I will go back and I'll usually redo that line or that scene. I try not to be a perfectionist about it and redo it and redo it and redo it, because that's not good either. But because then you do lose that authenticity.
Yes, absolutely. And this actually leads to something that I would like to hear your thoughts on, because I've been hearing this a lot when it comes to audiobooks from both parties, is never give 100%, but give 90%. And the reason why, from what I've been told, is if you give 100%, you're always going to be nitpicking on the smallest of things. And I would like to hear your thoughts on for this, for both of you, for Kate from the author side and Jess from the narrator side.
Yeah, go ahead, Kate.
Oh, for me. Listen, like in writing the book, it's 100% for me. I am a perfectionist to my core. And so everything had to be, the story is too important. The characters are too important. The messaging is too important. The feeling I'm trying to convey, the emotional center and truth of the book is too important. Everything I have to it. I'm doing that with the sequel too. Like, I finished the first draft and now I'm in the trenches in the second draft, like, oh, that's what the story's about. It's not about this, it's about that. And I got to go back and I got to find that kernel of emotional truth and give it everything I have.
Awesome. Jess, what about you? Do you always give 100%, or do you go like 90 but know that there's leeway for that 10% to improve upon?
Yeah, I think from the performance standpoint, there's got to be a little bit of wiggle room. If I'm at 100% the whole audiobook, the listener's going to be exhausted. So it's kind of like playing an instrument. You've got to, sometimes you've got to take it down and slow it down, and other times you've got to know when to speed it up and make the intensity come up, or otherwise they're going to be so drained by the end. They're in one way or another.
For sure.
Awesome. Nice. See, this is why I love doing these shows, why I love doing this new series, because it gives, a very clear picture of what really goes into the creation of these incredible projects. And again, talking with narrators on the show, it's given me a more better appreciation for the voice over talent that narrators put in for the characters, because some of the myths and stereotypes that I've been seeing for a long time is that for narrators, it's just, in a recording booth, making silly voices. But that's not the case. It is not the case. It is hard work. It is a grind. It is fine-tuning the voices. And it's just, really giving it like your all and showing what you can do to bring these stories to life. And I think a very important topic, which I really want to hear your guys' thoughts on, because I think this is important, especially now, and that is, of course, AI when it comes into audiobooks. And I really want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. So, for Kate, for you as an author, what has that meant for you with the industry kind of shifting in this regard? And then, Jess, for you as a narrator, what has it meant for you in case of some instances where, I don't know if this has happened to you or may have heard stories of companies wanting to buy voices of the narrator so they can use it for their audiobooks without permission?
It's bananas. This whole thing. I'm sorry, just to jump in.
No, you're fine.
AI makes me angry. AI, there's no such thing as AI art. Art requires human beings.
Yes.
AI art is just stealing. It's just
Yes.
stolen work. Whether it's somebody using AI to write. I don't even use like Grammarly as an AI program to edit. I don't even do that because I don't want my work anywhere near any of those engines to I don't want it fed and learning from my stuff. That makes me cringe. River City Siren Press, the publisher I work with, has a very, very strict, we don't use AI in our writing. We don't use it in editing. We don't use it in marketing of our books. We don't use it in the cover art or the character art of our books. Like, there is no AI. And that's one of the reasons I went with them, because I think AI is just, it's not good. It's not good.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely true. And Jess, what is your thoughts? I think I could probably get your thoughts on it, but I would love to hear your input on this, because especially now more than ever, I think with AI entering the industry, I think of all those impacted by AI in the publishing industry, narrators are getting hit the most with, in case, companies trying to buy the narrated voice of the person, or other case, shifting away from human talent and making something that's artificially created for mass-produced consumption. And I would love to hear your thoughts on what that means to you as a narrator and a performer.
Yeah, it's definitely a very heated topic among voice actors. There's a lot of people out there fighting to dismantle it. I always have clients sign a writer that they will not use my voice for AI if they work with me. A very popular platform. I see every time I log in that I can sell my voice to them and be part of their pilot program. And I can't make it go away. It's irritating. It's there every time. Yeah, I'm very much against it. And I know that some people, in the context of an audiobook, I am very much against it.
Yes.
I think virtual voices for accessibility within schools and kids and reading documents, in Google Docs or something out loud, that's valid. That's understandable. But when it comes to something that is giving a person an experience, that can't come from a digital voice.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, I 100% agree. As I like to say now, and a lot of my viewers love this, asking AI to either write or narrate something is like asking an alcoholic 7th grader to do it for you. It's not going to be the best. You're going to have to edit it anyway, and you're going to realize you should have just written the thing in and of yourself. And, I again have to agree with you guys that, human talent and human creativity is, very precious and very special, because it makes very iconic memories and brings about certain experiences and emotions. And on that topic, I'm actually very curious. So, for you guys, was there like a favorite scene that you guys just enjoyed? And also, was there a challenging scene during the production of this book?
Hmm.
The writing of it. My favorite scene, my favorite chapter is Second Floorboard to the Right, which is the chapter in which Georgie first gets a letter from the Niddle Ned and is figuring out how to get to Nern the first time. That she's so full of both anxiety and excitement, and she's nervous, and she's like raring to go, and she and Sam are still besties, and like I love that chapter. That's the chapter I read when I do readings at bookstores. That's the chapter I do. As far as writing it, the hardest part was the end. There's a scene, I don't want to give anything away.
Of course.
But there's a scene right near the end of the book that I fought against really hard. I wanted it to be, I wanted to give Georgie everything she wanted. And it didn't feel true or real. And so the book ends on a hopeful note, but she doesn't get, I don't want to spoil it for anybody.
Of course.
It was a very difficult scene.
Yeah.
All right. Jess, how about for you? Was there a favorite scene that you loved recording? Maybe a favorite line from a character? And possibly, was there a challenging scene or dialogue that you encountered in the production of this book?
Quite honestly, any scene with Ned is probably a favorite. I'm obsessed with Ned. He's wonderful. And I also loved the scenes with Corbin and Kieran, Parrot brothers, later on in the book. I would love to talk about the challenging ones, but I also don't want to give away the plot points. I think as from a narration perspective, I think I always want to make sure I'm differentiating the characters enough that the listener will know who they are. So I think that's my hope that came across okay.
Absolutely. And this is actually going back to something that I brought up earlier, but I think it is important to talk about is sometimes the book and the audiobook may differ slightly. And what I mean by that is, when writing, well, almost like with you, Kate, as you mentioned earlier, that you had written certain Greek phrases and Greek words in your book. And from a reader's perspective, that's incredible. That is amazing. But I could also see from the other side of a narrator's perspective where, they're trying to say out these words, maybe they're really stumbling upon it. And that would discussion is like, okay, we may have to change this up a little bit. So again, this is a broad discussion of, collaboration. And ultimately, how important is it to really have those very open discussions? Because I can also definitely see, in some instances, the author just giving the narrator, here's the book, have at it. And there's no collaboration, no discussions. And it kind of feels not as unified as one would like it to be.
Yeah, I've had a couple of experiences like that, where it's pretty much been, here's the book, have fun. And it can be nice in some ways, but I prefer to know where the author's heart is on it, and what they're these characters have been with them for years most of the time. So when an author like Kate will send me her the PowerPoint you made with all the characters, like I was like, I love that. Like that sort of thing is great. anything at all to help me visualize or hear, I find really helpful. And languages, yes, it takes extra time, but it's not daunting to me. I enjoy languages, I enjoy accents, and I want to get them correct as much as possible. So Kate was wonderful, and most of the time when I've had books with languages, the authors have been very, very helpful.
That's amazing to hear. That is incredible to hear. And thank you for bringing up like your experiences, because it is important to talk about, this is a collaborative endeavor, because you guys are always constantly talking, giving each other feedback. It's like, hey, this scene doesn't work well, or this is really how this character would sound like. And this kind of goes into another discussion, which could probably branch off into another episode, which is, of course, sound. Now, I know from a writer's perspective, we always try to be as descriptive as possible to try to write. And I also know from a narrator's perspective, trying to invoke those feelings. So I would like to hear your guys' thoughts. Which do you think, in both of your respective fields, is probably the most challenging or difficult to perfect? Writing or narrating a book that appeals to the five senses, or writing or narrating a book that is immersive? Or do you think there is an overlap between the two?
I can't write without the five senses. So the book that I wrote, I don't want to, I'm sure there are authors out there that write more sensory detail than I do. But I certainly didn't want to overload the book with sensory detail. This is a middle grade book.
Mm-hmm.
Sight, smell, touch, hearing, all of that is involved in the book.
Yes.
Yeah, there are moments where it's like the sound of the arrows going by is like whistle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely in the book.
Yeah.
Awesome. Jess, what are your thoughts on this? Which is found to be easier between the two? Because I imagine, again, as a narrator, trying to invoke, those raw emotions, trying to appeal to the senses. Because it's one thing to read the book and try to imagine it yourself as a reader, but listening to it, being in that scene, it's another feeling entirely.
Yeah, I think, in itself, listening to an audiobook is going to be an immersive experience. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's, again, like I said earlier, I can't always emphasize every sensory experience, the whole book to that extreme level.
Right, of course.
But I can find a way to, the sound of the arrows, making that the way I hear it and the way I might imagine my children hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
And with cozy fantasy, there's a lot of sensory detail. So, it's describing food and describing textures, and I think adapting my voice to whatever that descriptor is in a fitting way that's not going to overwhelm the person on the other end, if that makes any sense.
Yes, absolutely. It does. And this also is another discussion which I think is important, and I again want to hear your guys' thoughts on this, is of course the amount of character detail that is given. And what I mean by that is, for Kate, when you were writing these characters, I imagine there were some inspirations of other characters from other media that played a role in the creation of these characters. And then when meeting Jess, I also imagine that there was probably a moment of, okay, this is what this character is. This is how old they are. This is, a voice type. And I think that is a very integral part of the audiobook creation that doesn't get talked about as much, because it's not just, oh, here's the book, this is how the character sounds like, here's a little background. Well, yes, this is the background, but how old is this character? Do they have an accent? What age are they? All of those are very, very integral. And I would very much love to hear guys' thought on this aspect of the audiobook creation.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, I think that's so important. Those details are so important. If I'm sent an audition for something, all of that information is in the audition usually.
Mm.
That way you have a sense, like if I'm sent something without an age, and then that's a very wide net.
Mhm.
Vocal characteristics are also really, really helpful. Because if I know that they sound youthful and clear, I can do that. If they're kind of gravelly and down here, like I can do that. Like it's just like I appreciate those kinds of details in a book. So as I'm prepping a book, I will usually highlight the way that a character is described physically and also how they speak, and how they're saying a line. That they're smiling in the line. That can be heard. So yeah, I find all that really helpful.
Awesome, awesome. And Kate, for you, did you do something similar to that? Like when you met Jess, did you give her like every piece of information about your characters to make sure that they were as close to how you imagine the characters would be in your book?
Yes.
Which I want, so it's okay. It's good.
PowerPoint. Of it's
Yeah,
so
it was wonderful.
It's so nerdy. I built a PowerPoint, and it's got like all the main characters in it, for book one, and obviously for book two, it's being added to with
Ah,
additional characters that come in. But like Georgie, her whole family, Sam, Ned, Liesel, they're all in it, and I've got pictures of actors who I thought like kind of looked like how the characters would look. I've got their ages, their birthdays, their relationship to Georgie, their, main characteristics, all that stuff is in that PowerPoint. I used it for Jess. I actually also used it for the cover artist. So she got that copy too, so that she could do character art and that kind of thing. So I like sent it to my publisher to like when she was editing, so that she would have kind of all those thoughts in my head. So yeah, it's a super nerdy thing, but I definitely have a Karis family PowerPoint that
I love it.
nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is really, really awesome.
Yeah.
And I think we've also talked about earlier is, when a story ends, and this also goes into another discussion for like the audiobook creation is, when to say this is it, that this is like the final performance. Because I imagine for you, Jess, there have been multiple takes, multiple possible redos, either the endings to really, really nail it. And for both of you guys, when did you guys collectively like tell each other, like, it's finished? Like, this is like how the story is going to end, even though the book already ends. But what I mean by that is the performance, the dialogue, the voice, that it makes sense that, okay, that is how the book is going to end, and like in a satisfying feeling. Because ultimately, as you mentioned, Jess, audiobooks are immersive, and you want to have that satisfaction towards the end. So can you talk about that part of the creation of the audiobook, the end, the final take, so to speak?
Yeah, so I'm kind of notorious at the end of chapters. I will typically do that last line twice, because sometimes I feel like I'm more settled in for the second take than I was for the first. Not every time, but that's something I will do. And the end of the book, I'm the same way. I want it to fit the genre that I'm narrating. I think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to leave the listener either, depending if that's the end, feeling settled, or if it's a different genre, maybe not so much.
Right.
And if it's a series, then you normally want to leave them wanting more. So I might change my tone a little, to kind of have that little bit of a hook. What's going to happen? So
Absolutely. And for you, Kate, what was it like for you as the author, you know, at that moment, probably hearing the last bit of lines recorded by Jess for the end of the book? What did that mean for you? I imagine it was probably a very emotional moment because it was like, you know, you reached the end. It was almost like writing the book all over again and just, you know, in that headspace of like, I can't believe it's finished. Even though this is a series, you were again rewriting the book all over again and just going through those emotions of like, wow, it's actually here.
Yeah, I actually was not on the live when Jess recorded the end.
Okay.
I was working.
Yeah, you kind of had to do that.
I was listening to the live while I was working most of the time. And then I would have meetings and stuff come up and have to jump off. And so I actually wasn't around for that. And I'll be very transparent. I am kind of glad I wasn't.
Okay.
The end of the book, like I said earlier, is hard. It's hard. It's a hard ending for me as somebody who went through, I mean, not exactly what Georgie went through, because like there was no floorboard disappearing underneath in the attic. That's not a real thing. But as somebody who went through a very similar situation as Georgie, I don't want the ending to be where it is. So I'm glad I didn't hear it live. I already cried. Like I was crying at one scene when they're on this ship and Georgie's having a really sentimental with Kai, the ship captain. And that had me tearing up while I was working. And I'm like, oh man, when she gets to the end, I'm not going to be able to work through it. So I'm waiting for the final, like the masters to come. And then I'll sit down with my tissues and I'll
Awesome. That is incredible. And as we're nearing the end, there are a few final questions or discussions that I really want to ask you guys. And this actually is an early question I should have asked, but I decided to leave it here. And that is, of course, you know, listening to the voices and, you know, this topic of, you know, authenticity. Because I definitely think, talking with my good friend Daphne Winters, a fellow narrator, she said probably the biggest thing for authors to really take into account among the multitude of things when working with a narrator on an audiobook is when it comes to the voices of the characters, really sign off on that is the voice. Because Jess, I don't know if this has happened to you in other projects where you've read a story and you're all the way done, only for the author to say, well, that's not how I imagine the character to sound like. And then having to tell them, well, I did a few snippets. I sent them to you. I got no feedback. So I was taking that as my cue. So again, this discussion of collaboration on, you know, really communicating on that regard. So for Kate, when working with Jess, like, did she send you, I imagine she sent you like a few snippets of, you know, what the characters were like before the stories. And Jess, for you, how important is it to like really stress this for like authors wanting to work with narrators that have that communication, really, you know, kind of give like the official sign off on these characters, or at the very least, if there's things that need to be changed, tell them early on?
Yes, I always like that information up front, what the author's hoping to hear. As part of my experience and process in I have an author packet I give to all my authors. And in it, I try to emphasize that like that first 15-minute sample or the 15-minute sample in general is a great place for you to pick somewhere where you might want to hear a particular character or a particular scene to get that feedback. Typically, once I'm past the 15-minute point, it's me. You know, that's my creative ship to steer. And so I generally don't, I try not to take on a lot of feedback about specific vocal choices after that point in time. Otherwise, you know, I've only experienced it once where an author did get a little I don't want to say micromanagey, but very particular about certain things. And it was kind of challenging. And but I understand at the same time, it's their baby, and I want to be respectful of that. So it's definitely a tricky path to navigate, I think, but as long as the author and narrator have a conversation at the beginning,
Yes.
and use that 15-minute sample, or if you don't have that in process, depending on what platform you're using, and you ask them, hey, do you mind just sending me a sample of this scene or this character? If that's a character you're really concerned about, or that's really special to you, I think it's okay to ask for a sample of that. I think that's more than okay before the narrator starts recording.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is actually, funny enough, this actually is a fan question one of my viewers wanted to ask you both. And this comes, oh, shoot. Sorry. It went blank. I had to pull it up. Come on. Okay. Here it is. Oh, well, this actually is a really, really sweet one. So, Kate, for you as the author, and for all the viewers here, what do you want the listeners to only take away from Jess's amazing performance of your book, as well as the sequels down the road?
I want them to take away, there's so much warmth and love in the books. It's not a romance, obviously, because it's a children's book.
Of course.
But there's so much love between friends and family in the book. There's grief and there's hard things in the book, but there's truth and there's warmth and there's lightness in it. And so I want them to experience the emotional realness of it, and the magic of it. It takes place in a pretty magical place.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And as a final capping to this incredible first episode of the Writers Hub, this is for both of you guys. And actually, this is a little scenario question. So imagine you are at a convention and you are promoting the book. And in that room, you have fellow authors, possibly aspiring narrators, possibly who have worked in possibly radio or broadcasting, any form of media in both respective fields. And of the multiple things that you could talk about in regards to an audiobook, what is the one that you would love to share with them and ultimately leave them with a pearl of wisdom if they decide to go down that road of making an audiobook, getting a team of narrators, or working with like a really good narrator and bringing the book to life to a new generation of readers and listeners?
Wow, that's an amazing question. From on my side, it's find your people and trust your gut, right? So be really picky with who you give your baby to, because like Jess said earlier, once you've had that 15-minute sample, she really is steering the ship from that point. You have to trust that the person you've picked to partner with in this endeavor has a skill set that you don't, and is going to take care of your baby and love it the way that you do and bring it into the world in this whole new way. And so be picky and find those people and then trust them to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jess, anything to add to that?
I think to fellow narrators, maybe those who are just getting started, I think look for the type of books that you want, and steer your own marketing that way. Because I find a lot of my clients via social media, and social media is an interesting place when talking about authenticity.
Yes.
But it's it's somewhere I have tried to be just myself as much as possible because I knew what kind of books I wanted to narrate, and I put that out there. And I've made so many beautiful connections that way.
Mhm.
And I think for narrators just getting started, I think knowing one genre that you love, that you know you would love to narrate, and start there and
Mhm.
connect with authors in a genuine, true way. And you just never know where that's going to take you.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said, Jess and Kate. And with that, viewers and listeners, we conclude the first episode of the Writers Hub. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for an amazing episode here. I want to give a huge thank you to our guests, Kate and Jess, for coming on the show. We wish them the very best. Now, I know you guys are going to be busy promoting the audiobook for this incredible story, as well as the sequels. So where can people find you on social media to reach out? And do you have any other upcoming projects you'd like to announce, or possibly upcoming events you would like to share with the listeners?
Ooh. You can find me on Instagram, where I'm most active is at Jess Maran VO. My website, Jess Maran. Gosh, hold on. My brain stopped working. JessMaranVO.com.
Mm-hmm.
Where authors can also find me there and reach out to me. I have a lot of wonderful projects on the horizon, and I've got a Celtic mythological Selkie, lovely Selkie story called
Ooh.
Selkie Moon coming out next week sometime.
Ooh.
And lots of stuff going on. It's been fun. Yeah. What about you, Kate?
Awesome. Kate,
Yeah.
any announcements, any projects to announce?
Sure. I can be found at Kate Mathos Author on Instagram and on TikTok, and then Kate Mathos at Blue Sky Social, whatever that is, on Blue Sky. I am most active on TikTok and Facebook. Not Facebook, ew, no. Most active on TikTok and Instagram, though. And then, obviously, this audiobook is coming out, we think, in September.
Oh, nice.
There's a new cover for this book that's going to be kind of launching with this audiobook. So that's really exciting. Sequel is due out in 2026 in like
Ooh.
March, although if I can finish writing it. And, I'm doing a bunch of like book signings and stuff. I'm going to be at the Young Readers Book Bonanza. It's a free event. Right now looks like there's going to be about 200 kids. It's about 30 authors. It's like a really cool event in Burbank, Illinois. So if you're in that area, you should check it out. There's an Eventbrite. You should go.
Awesome. I'll link all that down below in the description of this video. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the first episode of the Writers Hub. And if you want to see Kate's first interview on the show, I will link it here below or above. Sorry, wrong direction. And if you would like to see Jess in her very own narrator interview, comment down below. I am always looking for new independent creators to showcase here on the show. So if you'd like to see Jess in her very own interview, comment down below. And as always, thank you, everyone, for joining us for another amazing episode. This is the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill signing out. Wish you all a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you all in the next episode. Until then, take care and have a wonderful evening.